My soul was torn apart when I saw her cheating in front of my own eyes. The reunion, a moment of joy and memories, turned into hell when my wife cheated on me right in front of all our old friends. But that was just the beginning. She didn't stop at one person. Betrayal engulfed her and squeezed my heart with each new revelation. I decided to walk through the pain and confusion to uncover all the secrets hidden behind the betrayal. The amazing stories of adultery began to unfold, bringing out deep, dark secrets and covering us in a net of deceit. Are you ready to step into this tangled story full of intrigue and emotional turmoil? Then get ready for an amazing journey into a world of amazing infidelity stories that will make you ask yourself, what is love capable of, and what is betrayal capable of? Welcome to a world where the lines of loyalty and trust blur, and where every turn can be the last. As the saying goes, it's easy to tear down and hard to build. That's a saying my 5.5-minute ex-wife probably understood quite well, and she wasn't the only one. It's a simple story and a shift. We met at a reunion, my almost ex-wife and her classmate. I'm not going to write the details. There's no point, it's just like everyone else. They played on two fronts, lied to my eyes, lied to the last. Even when it had already blazed and the truth came out, they continued to twist like snakes on a red-hot frying pan. They lied to the last, twisted by hook or by crook, giving version after version, at that they and versions and lovers contradicted each other. The finale was about to come. There was nothing left before the divorce. The deadline for reconciliation was about to expire. And now for the main point. Even when everything came out and when there was no point in lying, they still continued. No less mean and dirty were the confessions of love. They say, a mistake, crazy, stupid, and everything in that spirit. Although at first the culprits were supposedly me and my lover's wife, then as a pattern, the two are guilty of adultery. And when things flared up and they realized that everything, Lafayette ended, gradually took the blame. Now for the results, the fruits of labor, so to speak. Our adult children, my son is 21, daughter's 19, they are in shock, and with my mother, as much as. My wife and I do not live together. She was immediately kicked out the door and lives with her sister. It's even cooler with my lover's family. They have 2 kids, daughters 16 and 17 years old. And the wife was pregnant with her third, by the way, at age 40. After the truth came out, the wife had a nervous miscarriage. The lover's wife is still not psychologically recovered from everything. The lover kicked out the door all relatives. Daughters hate him. And now for the nuances. As they say, in a hurry for those who are in the same situation and who want and are trying to forgive. A small excerpt from the lovers' correspondence before the big boom, so to speak, before the truth came out and there was a scandal. The lovers nobly decided to break off all relations and keep their families together. I cannot find any culturally appropriate words for them. At the end, they thanked each other for a long time and declared their love for each other and said goodbye, touching and tragic. This is sarcasm. Now that both are exiled and when the families have learned everything, when they have lost everything, they'd have chosen a new tactic. Throwing the blame on each other, who started it first, who made the mess, and who was just a victim. How do I know? It's simple. We talked to the lover's family, the lover's wife's brother, to be exact, about whether to forgive and give another chance. You think for yourself. I have already decided for myself. And now a little recap for us, for the family. My almost ex-wife and I were together for over 20 years. True, we studied at different colleges, but at the same school. We went through a lot together, and now it was all flushed down the toilet. It was even worse with my lover's family. He came from a dysfunctional family, and she was the opposite. She was from a happy family, beautiful, but she had always loved him. She fell in love when she saw him in college. Always defended him in front of her friends and parents. Always helped and supported him in everything. And he turned out to be, what else can I say? I had a nervous breakdown and a heart attack. My lover's wife had a miscarriage and a terrible, terrible depression, and also a nervous breakdown. All the kids are in shock and stroke. Was it worth it? And who are the lovers after that? The questions are rhetorical, but the shock and damage is very real. And in order that there was something else to think about, give the example of the story of my friend. It's short, but very interesting and revealing. I have one friend in particular. Well, as usual, he returned from a business trip ahead of schedule. The mood was great. I signed a solid contract, from which the boss promised a handsome bonus. In joy, I stopped by the store and bought for my wife her favorite Martini Bianca. I went to a couple of other places, bought a gold ring with a stone and a bouquet, as much as 51 Gerber. I thought I would surprise my wife and brag about what a miner he is. Calls me the next day, all distraught, and asked to negotiate a small truck and a couple of porters to move things. When I asked him what had happened, he said he would tell me about it later. All right, a comrade asks, how could you refuse? In general, happy return home, and, well, yes, the scenario has not changed. The wife is already home with her lover, that is, with another lover, but not with the first. Or with the first, in general, not with her husband. I loaded my friend up. My wife, of course, actively interfered and moved him to a rented apartment. My friend forbade me to tell his wife where he had moved. I took a leave of absence at work, only on my own account. The next day, his wife came to my house and demanded in an ultimatum to return her to her husband. To bring her home, can you imagine? The wording was, you took it away, you bring it back. This went on for a week. The wife of my friend would come straight to me after work, and she was in a quarrel, demanding her husband's return. It all ended with the fact that my nerves are notwithstanding, and sent her far and away. I threw her out the door. I do not know how, but after about a month, my wife found the location of her husband. That is my friend. I don't know what kind of conversation they had there. My friend came home, but only for 3 months. Do you know why? Because he could not forgive his wife, although the rumor is that the wife asked forgiveness and blackmailed the children. There are 2 children. Anyway, the epilogue. A month later, I was sitting at home, drinking beer, not waiting for anybody, and the doorbell rang. I opened the door. Comrade's wife herself. Turns out it was my fault for taking her husband away that day. But if I had not taken away, it would have been different. That now I can rejoice, because I have achieved and destroyed a strong and friendly family. But can you even imagine that, huh? Anyway, thank you all for listening. I needed to vent. I'm done, and I take my leave. Listeners, this is me, your narrator, and please stay tuned, because I have a few more words, a few more thoughts to share. Whether you support them or not, write them in the comments. In the meantime, please listen. You know, adultery, this is the fact of the end of the relationship, right? So many people think, for these very many, do not see the prospect for further development. For the development of at least a normal family union. That such as there, yes, can work out, and it can even be developed in quotation marks. Among the adherents in this point of view, as I have noticed, the majority, by the way, are men. Here's a look at their arguments, which I've compiled in 4 points. First, with adultery, the most important thing is violated, which is trust. Totally agree. I'm getting ahead of myself as much as possible, signing off on every word, right? You see, only a little doubt always remains in the soul, which over time performs a very important task, unfortunately, a negative one. That it does its destructive work. Resentments will be accumulated, followed by scandals. And finally, a psychological breakdown will occur, and the relationship will go nowhere. It will only suck the vital energy out of each partner. Second, if a man forgives the betrayal of a woman, he must understand that he falls in her eyes. I often talk about this in the conclusions after the video, and I will say it and repeat it, because by doing so, when a man does this, he demonstrates his weakness as a male, right? Most betraying women of the fair sex, they will not see this move as a display of nobility. Dear women, please tell us about this, say something about this or not. It is very interesting to listen. We have on the channel 92% of the male audience. Yes, and therefore, we often hear the opinion of men. Yes, and what do you think about it? Well, I understand that most likely I am right. Subconsciously, a woman begins to lose respect for the partner, which can turn into the most that not the least ordinary contempt, disdain. Next, women will not be able to draw the right conclusions when they receive forgiveness. Let me explain. The paradox is that a certain psychological defense is triggered, and in women's heads, there is a revolution of consciousness, which is often called some magic. That is, they will find an excuse for themselves, putting the responsibility for what happened on a third person, and often on the partner himself. This, by the way, we saw again today in one of the stories. You remember yourself, and both in the case of the lover and in the author's wife. One last thing. The most dangerous consequence of forgiveness is getting a kind of an indulgence for further adultery, you know. Spouse this step, a man shows that he is tied to the family, and as a consequence, the beloved woman, and realize this dependence, the dependence of the loved one. The first, she also wants to try fate, and one more time. This one time, as we all understand, unfortunately, will not be limited to one case, that is, systematic adultery. This is what awaits a person in the case of forgiveness of adultery. This, by the way, applies, I think, not only to men, but what do you think? Because these thoughts, these opinions were about, yes, spouses, the male sex, and what happens from the point of view of women. Now moving on to the second story. My reality world came crashing down when I suddenly caught my wife talking to another. Their voices pierced my soul, the words that were spoken like swords chopping apart my faith in their unshakable love. I stood in the shadows, an invisible witness to their secret clash. But now I was faced with a choice. What should I do? What to do with this revelation that had turned my life upside down? I realized that this story was just beginning, that it would lead me through a maelstrom of emotions and upheaval. Amazing stories of fate trauma would inevitably unfold, opening doors to secrets and mysteries that change all notions of loyalty and betrayal. Are you ready to embark with me on this thrilling journey into a world of doubt and decision? Then get ready for an amazing saga where every turn can be the last and every decision the key to a new chapter in our destiny. Welcome to a world of amazing stories where drama accompanies us at every turn, and where the true power lies in our choices. And we begin. I am 29 years old. My wife is 27. We have been in a relationship for 10 years, 8 of which are legally married. We have 2 children. The oldest is 7 and the youngest is 5. We both work, live in a 3-bedroom apartment, and are building a house. The relationship with my wife has always been normal. We rarely argued about minor things, but we never had any serious quarrels. We have always lived in love and harmony. But for a month now, as if she was replaced, she began to break down because of any nonsense with me and the children. Then she immediately asked forgiveness with tears, then some strange attacks of tenderness, affection, and passion. Waking up at night and she wasn't there. I got up and she was sitting in the bathroom, crying. I asked her what happened. She said she had a nightmare, and we hugged and kissed and went back to bed. Tried to ask her about it, said she had problems, trouble at work. I know very well where she works and I know her boss. Called her up. She says everything is fine. She has no complaints about her job. She is a valued employee and a good person. They love and appreciate her there, which is what they ask of me. She has been nervous lately. I also asked the boss what was going on there. I answered that I would give a lot to know what has been going on with her lately. It turns out that at work she lies about being in trouble at home, and to me, on the contrary, she lies about being in trouble at work. The boss suggested that maybe she had health problems, and she does not tell anyone, so as not to upset anyone. I went to the clinic, talked to the chief doctor, I even had to pay a little, but then again, bummer. She hadn't seen a doctor in 2 years. At the wounds clinic, the same thing, she hasn't been to one lately. In the evening, she made a scene to me, saying, "Why am I sniffing around, asking questions, and what am I trying to find out?" I had already been harshly answered that I was not a stranger to her, and why do we even need a husband with whom you cannot share problems? Again, the tears, apologies, whatever happens, I need to know that she loves me. My wife replied that she would figure it out on her own. And then one day, the most interesting thing happened. One day, I asked to come home from work to pick up some construction documents after my lunch break. So I did. Except I found my wife at home. Why wasn't she at work? I wonder. Well, she didn't even hear me come in. She was on the phone with someone. She wasn't just talking, she was screaming and cursing so loud that you could hear her in the stairwell. I swear, in all the years we lived with her, I never heard her say anything like that. She was cursing at someone. A woman from a normal family swearing like a drunken fishmonger. But imagine, friends, a 3-story wing. I will try to bring you here scraps of phrases with a civilian translation, omitting all references. And here is the direct speech. Remember, I have a family, children, and a husband I love more than life. Don't you dare talk about him like that. You're not worth a nail of him. If you ruin my family because of you, I have nothing to lose, I'll kill you. Even if you go to jail, I won't care. Are you an idiot? The only man I've always loved, love, and will always love is Kostya. That is, dear friends, your humble servant. That's what it was all about. Of course, on the one hand, I was very pleased to hear such things about myself, but the one who was on the other end of the line, this state of affairs clearly did not suit. When she saw me come in, she almost got hysterical. I decided that I too, and at the same time get some peanuts. Slowly I came over, asked her to calm down, and told her that all I heard was that you love me, that family is above all for you, and that all else is not important to me. She burst into tears on my shoulder. I decided not to put pressure on her yet, because I think that she had screwed up a joint, and shaking her at night would cause even more trouble. And my eldest son went to a privileged grammar school with an English law curriculum. My youngest goes to a prestigious kindergarten on preferential terms. The position I have at work is good enough and does not tolerate tarnished reputation. Told my wife that when she is ready to tell me everything, then I am always ready to listen to her at any time. And this freak answered that I know everything and let him roll in the woods. I offered to go to church, to a psychologist, wherever. For 3 days I had been on pins and needles, but my wife had calmed down a little and was cuddling like a cat. All the time, day and night, but waiting for her revelation, not rushing really. I would not want, of course, to believe in her treason. Divorce is also not the time. There are so many plans ahead. The house should be completed. There is only finishing work. I promised the children that in the summer we would all go to the sea, and they got used to the idea that if Daddy said he would do it. The young girl also in the same gymnasium I want to arrange, a place already now it is necessary to score. But here it is its silence even more distresses me. I as in ignorance of any. Dear friends, thank you for listening to this story with me. I always answer in the comments, and I would be glad to talk with you about what could be the reason for such a strange behavior of his wife. Of course, the obvious option we all understand, but maybe there is something else hidden there. If you like this story, please like it and subscribe to the channel. It will be the best thanks for our efforts. See you soon.